Have you ever felt like there's a vivid fire burning inside of you, yearning to break free and illuminate your life? That, my friend, is your vibrant life waiting to bloom. Welcome to the Vibrant Life Podcast. We are here to empower women just like you to liberate that vibrant life, to live authentically, and to harness the power within.
Our journey will take us through the enlightening realms of energy healing, goal setting, spiritual awakening, and so much more. We're stepping into the light of self-acceptance, of owning our power and potential.
If you have been yearning to dive headfirst into the world of entrepreneurship, or awaken your spirituality, or simply make peace with yourself, your search ends here at the Vibrant Life Podcast. As we embark on this enlightening journey together, we promise to hold your hand through every step of your journey to a more vibrant life.
Your adventure to true empowerment and authentic living begins here. Tap into the vibrant life you've always dreamed of. Subscribe now and join us at the Vibrant Life Podcast. Embrace your vibrant self. Until then, shine on.
Shine on.
Hey, welcome to the Vibrant Life Podcast. I am one of your hosts, Cassie.
I'm Audrey.
And we are so excited you're here today. It's been a little bit since we've recorded, so we're just gonna pop back in. I'm so excited that we're here and talking. It's gonna be fun.
I know, it's been a few weeks.
Yeah. It's busy summer.
It is busy summer already. So today we thought we would talk about boundaries. So we've kind of touched on them a little bit. In the past, we didn't really know what boundaries were.
Yes, absolutely. So let's talk about boundaries. First of all, understanding boundaries. What's a boundary, Audrey?
What is a boundary? A boundary is knowing that there's... What is a boundary?
Boundaries in the context of friendship is the guidelines, limits, rules that you establish to maintain a healthy and respectful friendship.
Right.
Because friendships can get toxic just like romantic relationships, family relationships. So a healthy friendship has to have a basis of respect, and it has to have a basis of goodwill, in my opinion. I think that's kind of how I think of it, of I'm rooting for you, you're rooting for me. I want only good things for you, and I want that to be a healthy environment. So we have to respect each other's boundaries. So that's kind of that's what a boundary is. It's just you setting a limit, saying, I will do this, I won't do this. I will allow you to treat me this way, but I won't allow you to treat me in a different way. Mm-hmm. So it's just kind of setting your limits. So I was just telling Audrey, I just had to explain this to my daughter the other day. She has been watching the show Reba on Netflix. My two youngest sisters were over and they were watching it, and Gemma just latched onto it. And if you don't know the premise of the show, it hit home a lot for me. It's about a woman getting divorced from her cheating husband, and Gemma really gravitated towards the kids in the show because they're dealing with their parents divorcing. And while she was a baby at our divorce, I think it still resonates with her. But anyway, I was telling Audrey that in the show, her ex-husband and the mistress are always popping in to the house, and I was sitting there watching with my daughter, and I was like, I don't like that. That feels icky in my own body. Reba is violating my boundaries. And I said something because I didn't want my daughter to think like, oh, this is normal. This is how divorced parents should act. Like maybe this will happen with my parents.
Yeah.
And so I was just commenting on the show, and I was like, Reba needs better boundaries.
Absolutely.
And she looked up at me and was like, what are boundaries? What are you talking about? And I was like, ooh, teaching moment. Yay. Love that. No pressure. Because again, we've mentioned I didn't know what boundaries were really or how to enforce them. I believed a lot of the myths that we're going to talk about later in the episode. And so I was like, okay, so a boundary is how you decide how people will treat you. So they help your relationships feel safe and fun. And so putting it into a 6-year-old's words, it's how you know if people are safe or not, is that they're respecting your boundaries. And it's you saying, I will let you treat me this way, but I won't be treated this way. And you don't get to change their actions. You only change how you respond to it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
So that's kind of the basis of boundaries.
Yeah.
So let's talk about why you need them.
Why do you need them? I think another big piece of that is self-worth. Is knowing that you are worthy of setting whatever boundary you need So I think for me, that was a really big thing because I just went with the flow. You tried to fit in. For me, I was a people pleaser my entire life.
Yeah.
Wanting to make sure everyone had their needs met and never really knowing what my own needs were. So that was a big part of my self-discovery and finding that self-worth and knowing that I could set those boundaries up between people. It started with someone would ask me to do something and I'd be like, I really don't want to, but I feel obligated.
Yes.
That was a huge one for me, always feeling obligated to do what other people wanted me to do. So whether it was going out when I felt really tired or whether it was like having people to my house for an extended period when I really didn't want to do that, or I don't know.
Yeah, that's a really good point. Like just attaching it to that self-worth. As you were talking, a thought came up of like, in our family, one of our family values was flexibility and then serving others. And when you put those two together, you don't know that you can say no to things.
Yeah.
And I think that came out of a good place. I think it taught me a lot of great skills and lessons. But one of the things it did not teach me was that it's okay to have boundaries and how to enforce those boundaries and how to identify when you need a boundary. And so we'll talk about all of that too. But yeah, self-worth, knowing that it's okay for you to set boundaries and that people should respect your boundaries. It ties into that of being like, I'm worthy of space, I'm worthy of time, I'm worthy of feeling good in my body, in my home, in relationships. I deserve to be treated with respect. So it comes back to a lot of that self-worth.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm worthy of taking a rest if I need it. Which for me, it was overextension or over planning and doing too much that way.
Yes, and that's one of the things that boundaries is supposed to help you do is avoid burnout. Boundaries are also great for self-preservation, emotional regulation. I mean, when it all kind of ties together when we talk about, stress and burnout and, emotional regulation, all of that is from feeling overwhelmed. And when you have good boundaries, you live in this state of flow that personally I didn't know was possible before, but you just feel safe and secure.
Yeah.
Because you can trust yourself and you can trust the people that are still in your life.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about times where maybe I'm just the planner in a group of people, and that's okay to be the planner. But when you're constantly the only one reaching out to see if people want to do things, to see if you want to get your kids together, to do all the things, for me, it took a moment of realization that I deserve the equal give and take that a relationship can give. So it's okay to take a step back and reevaluate a friendship, trying to decide, does this person fill my cup? And finding people in your life that fill your cup. And if people don't, it's okay to set boundaries on, okay, well, I can see you if you reach out first, or if we're doing something in a smaller capacity, then maybe those people aren't in your inner circle. So maybe think of your groups of people in your life as your inner circle, your core group, your people that get to know all the details, the people that support you for everything you're going through, the person you can call on a dime and be like, hey, I need this right now. My life is falling down. Who are you going to call? Like, you're going to call in, your people who will be there for you, who will send a housekeeper to you when you've just had surgery. Hello, Ellen. Like people like that. But then there's like an outer circle and then an even further outer circle. So knowing if you've got people in your inner circle that maybe aren't serving you as well as you're serving them, or however it may be, it's okay to push people out a little bit.
Okay, and that reminded me of this exercise. So as I was going through my divorce, my therapist gave me this visual, I guess, about relationships, and it blew my mind. So she had 3 hula hoops and she put them in kind of a Venn diagram, or no, they were overlapping. And so one hula hoop is yours, or one hula hoop is the other person's in the relationship, and then the middle is your relationship together. So in this case, it was our marriage. And she goes, you're supposed to have 1 foot in each. You're meeting your own needs, you're meeting the needs of the relationship. She's like, and relationships are give and take. So sometimes one person has to have both feet in the relationship to hold it up if the other person is going through something. Just had major surgery. You're not expected to reciprocate at 100% all the time. But the thing is, you have to know that that person would also be willing to step in and hold up the relationship if you had something going on. So it's this give and take. But then after just a little bit, you're supposed to step back into your own hula hoops. So one person isn't always doing all the work. And that's a good visual to me of a reciprocal relationship of we're both willing to step in and do more for a little bit, but we both are responsible for ourselves. So when you are in a toxic relationship, you're expected to always be in that middle hula hoop. and then also taking care of your needs, but you don't have a foot in your need hula hoop. So your needs just aren't getting met by you or anyone else in that relationship. And I thought that was a very powerful visual to me, but it's kind of stuck with me of like, this is how we do that. Is someone willing to step into my hula hoop for a little bit and help pull me up? And am I willing to do that for them? Because if it's not going to be reciprocal, they probably shouldn't be in my inner circle.
Your inner circle.
It's a give and take for sure.
Yeah.
So here's a really good resource. It's a book just called Boundaries by Henry Cloud. I've read it several times because I didn't have any boundaries and I didn't know how to set them. And this book goes through all of it in a very good way. So this was probably the first big resource that I used when trying to sort myself out.
Yeah. Well, it's important to have good resources when you're going through something. And for me, it was kind of the same way. Like, I didn't understand. I don't think I was like, ooh, I need to set boundaries. I think it was more that I had relationships that were making me feel drained or exhausted. There was a lot of resentment and frustration. I think that was just kind of like my life. That was just kind of the bigger picture of my life. I didn't have enough personal space. I had a hard time saying no. I felt constant criticism or judgment.
Yes.
Which was huge.
Yeah.
In circles of women, to feel criticism and judgment. I feel like that's another thing with society just raising us up to bring other women down instead of to empower each other.
Yeah.
It's huge. And so if you have relationships in your life that look like that, those are probably some red flags that you do need to set some boundaries.
Yeah.
Like we did.
So yeah, let's talk about how you know if you need to. So your body's going to tell you. Yeah. And if you don't know the signs, you don't know what's going on. Audrey mentioned a couple of them of, feeling a violation of personal space, just feeling uncomfortable. I think that's the biggest one for me. That's how I usually know if someone is crossing a boundary of just that, like, ugh.
Yes, that's a great example of ugh. It's like as a friend, I feel like I have poured a decent amount in, and then at some point I'm like, I'm just not getting anything back.
Yeah.
We sit down to have a conversation and it's not two-sided, and yet you're still real quick to like call on me if you need something, but then do I ever get anything back?
Yeah, feeling disrespected.
Yeah.
They're disrespecting your time, they're disrespecting your energy. That's a good one. Violation of personal space. I feel like every woman knows this in a different setting, but violation of personal space, you get that like, no. Also ignoring your needs. This can be inducing you to ignore your own needs, but them also ignoring your needs.
Yes.
And that becomes very blatant if it's like a lot of guilt tripping. It's a lot of minimizing your feelings. It's always all about them. If you come to somebody else with a problem and it somehow the conversation circles back to them without addressing yours, not letting you have space, I think is one of the examples, and feeling that in your body, feeling manipulated, guilt tripped. So those are some signs that you can look out for on if you need better boundaries in a relationship. But on the flip side, let's talk about what a healthy friendship looks like.
Heck yeah.
It feels good. It feels comfortable.
Good. It feels fulfilling.
Yeah.
There's give and take.
For me, it's about, do I feel like this person wants the best for me? Mm-hmm. And do I want the best for them? Like, it's easy to come from a place of benefit of the doubt. Like, if something does go wrong, your first instinct isn't like, oh my God, I feel so disrespected. It's like, oh, I'm sure that wasn't meant to happen that way, and that you feel comfortable talking about it.
That's the big thing. And that is something, as I've grown recently in the last 6 months, I had to be like, hey, this part of a conversation happened. It didn't sit well with me, and I just wanted to clear the air. And that is nothing old Audrey would have ever done. This is a totally brand new, vibrant Audrey that is like, oh shit, we said this, it didn't feel good, I want to talk about it. And being able to do that is a great sign of a healthy relationship.
And those things, conversations, make your friendship grow deeper.
Absolutely.
100%. Like, you're safe, you're feeling supported, even through the bumps. You know it's okay to talk about, it's okay to bring up, and that the relationship is going to be safe for you. So that's what a healthy friendship looks like, and that you can call on those people, and they're calling on you, and it's just supportive. Also, if plans change, like, there's understanding there. There's like, hey, we miss you, but
We get why you can't come. We were just talking about
Yeah.
that with our daycare moms group. If somebody can't come, then that's exactly it. That's how you respond to somebody. You're like, I get it.
I get it. I support your boundaries of you saying, I need time with my family. Somebody who does a really good job of setting the expectations in a relationship is actually my brother-in-law. So I learned a lot from him. Like, if he's having people over, it will be like, okay, and it's ending at 8. And he will like literally get up, like, he's like, I set the expectation. This is my boundary. Like, this is when my energy is done. And it's not in a rude way because he's communicated it ahead of time. Like, he'll just wrap it up, or he'll say, you know, I can come over from 6 to 8 or whatever. And then he will leave. You can continue to have a good time, but just like knowing that he can say, like, this is what I can give you. I took that and I did it in kind of a different way of like, reaching out to friends. It was like, if they're having a hard time, I was like, oh, hey, I can do this, or I can do this for you. Is either of that helpful? And if they say no, that's totally fine. But then it gives them some options of what they can do, but it stays within my boundaries.
Yeah.
Of this is the energy I have to give right now. This is what I can do for you right now, and still feel good about it and it not cause resentment within me. And that's okay. And like having that acceptance come in when you do set those boundaries and say, this is all I have right now.
And then having people respect those boundaries is a great sign of a healthy relationship. I think we do things like that too. I was just thinking the other day, we're gonna go out to dinner at 5:30. Would anyone like to join us? And then the next question was, can you move it to 6? And I understood where she was coming from, why she needed to go to 6 p.m. But for us with 3 kids, we're like, it's bath night. The kids are exhausted. Like, we really can't move it. Even that 30 minutes felt like too much for us.
Yeah.
So we said no. And that's okay.
And the sign of a healthy friendship or a respectful friendship and a toxic one is the response you get back from that. You know, if it was like a guilt trip, like, how could you? All I'm asking is for 30 minutes and a tirade.
No,
That's,
it was
that's
a
probably not
bummer. The timing's not going to work out tonight. Which I was like, I love that, and I still feel a little bit bad because she's a single mom. She was nursing her baby. Her baby wasn't quite ready to go yet, so I get that, and I wanted to be able to provide that, but I knew I couldn't. Actually, I more knew my husband couldn't, and it was very important that we set that. Okay, we're going to be home by 7 p.m. versus 7:30, like home by 7 p.m. and kids in bed by 8, which was really important.
Yeah, but you guys know, like, when your bath night and things like that, like,
you've got all the things to do, and the kids are getting used to their summer programs, and so everyone's just out of control. The last 2 weeks have been really rough, which I feel like is still a part of how I'm feeling right now. I'm still like, I feel like I'm on edge because everyone has switched their schedules completely. Everyone's super tired. They're running, having fun all day. And then at the end of the day, there's been a lot of meltdowns. So,
and I'm just going into that. We're in a year-round school. This is our first short summer, so I'm curious to see how this is going to go.
How that's going to go.
But
another good example of where you can be setting boundaries, right, is with your kids and teaching them the boundaries that they need about bedtime and, okay, fine, we can... I don't know, I'm thinking about all the boundaries we set this week. It's like, okay, you're going to throw a tantrum, then that's a hard stop for me. You have to throw that tantrum in your room.
Oh, yeah.
Because your energy is affecting the rest of the family. So it's like, okay, take your energy somewhere else until you've emotionally regulated. Which, okay, we're going to do a new thing. And I'm going to put it in here because this has to do with regulating children's emotions. But one of our listeners, Malynda Zook, wrote a book called Forecast Your Feelings. And it's incredible, and it's a great way to teach emotional regulation to your children. And so, anyways, that was something.
It came out on Amazon this week.
It came out on Amazon this week.
Yes. I want to give her a shout out.
Yes, and I will plug the link in our show notes.
Yes.
But that was another good thing that happened last night, was that we read that book after we had some emotional breakdowns. And she does this really great thing where you breathe in rainbow colors and breathe out rainbow colors. Oh. And as you're doing it, you look at things in the room to identify the color. And it is a grounding exercise for children to bring their energy from way down.
That's awesome.
So,
that is awesome.
Okay, boundaries, emotional regulation.
Yes. Continue. Okay, so let's talk about some myths about boundaries.
Misconceptions. Boundaries are selfish.
Yes.
Boundaries mean cutting off relationships. Boundaries are fixed and unchangeable. They mean conflict. They're universal. You kind of talked about that a little bit ago about...
Yes. So my boundaries are my boundaries. I cannot set Audrey's boundaries. She cannot set my boundaries. We were talking about the hospital and how that was one of the instances I realized that I wasn't setting my own boundaries.
Yes.
Somebody else was trying to.
You know what? I got a story to go with that too. Now that you said that, I'm like, oh yeah, I had that too. Okay, you go first.
So I was giving birth, and my marriage was not great, and he was just laying down the law of like, no one can come visit us. I don't want anyone there. And I'm like, that's fine, but it wasn't a conversation. And I was like, but I'm the one going through the things. Like, it was a C-section, and I was scared, and I was like, okay, I don't want people waiting. I don't want people waiting in the waiting room. That was my boundary. Like, don't be waiting on me.
That was my
That's
boundary.
stressful, but like, if I want people to come, like, I want to feel like I can.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, that was, Audrey was telling a story, and that just came up of like, I wasn't heard. It wasn't a discussion.
Yeah.
He was controlling my actions and what I could and couldn't do. And so that was an indicator of an unhealthy relationship, which there was lots of other indicators at that point. But
that is a great example of boundaries and how he was like, this is the boundary. And you're like, wait, I didn't agree to that.
Right.
So,
that didn't feel good. I wanted my mom there. I wanted my siblings to come see my baby. I had just made her. She was
you wanted to
she
show
was
her up. Absolutely. I did that. I did the opposite. I had everyone come. And I thought, yeah, everyone can come. This is great. And then the second, I got better each time. The first one I was like, yes, everyone come. But I did set the boundary of 2 hours after I've delivered. So that way I've recovered and we've nursed. And then I didn't want anybody in the waiting room. That was
stressful.
a hard stop for me.
For a people pleaser, that is
exactly.
struggle.
I didn't want to even think about it. So then, but everyone came, but I didn't set a limit on how long they could stay.
Oh.
So, and I let everyone come. So then the second kid, I was like, okay, I'm only going to let less people come. I still didn't set limit on time. And I remember sitting there at 9:45 looking at my sister. I love you, sister. I know you understand this now because you have 2 children of your own. But I remember looking at her thinking, I am so tired. When is she going to leave? And they had driven for a few hours to see us. So I get why they stayed. But I didn't set that boundary. So the next time I was like, everyone can stay for 1 hour and that's it. Then you got to leave.
And
they did.
They accepted it.
They
Isn't
did.
that crazy? When you speak your needs out, the people that love you and respect you are going to stay. And then you feel more secure and it strengthens your relationship. Because, I wanted to go back to boundaries mean cutting off relationships.
Yeah.
And it will. They will. For the people that don't respect your boundaries anyway. The only people that are going to be upset are the people that were taking advantage of you and benefiting from you having a lack of boundaries. Those are the only people that are going to be mad that you're setting boundaries. Everyone else is going to be like, okay.
Yeah.
There might be an adjustment period, but they're overall accepting of that. And that was one of the things that was really scary for me when I was starting to set boundaries. I was like, oh my God. And then as the people fell away, I was like, oh, that didn't really matter.
It's okay.
That was okay. I was so scared about that. And then, I did lose some friends.
Mm-hmm. This kind of comes back
to boundaries.
It kind of comes back to law of attraction, though. You were letting people fall away so that way you could bring in relationships that were healthier and better suited to your needs.
And when you are surrounded by healthy relationships, it allows you to be a healthy person for somebody else. So I was calling in more healthy relationships. My relationships that I was already in were getting healthier. Mm-hmm. And so I was able to recognize that and know when I wanted to pursue a friendship, a relationship, a partnership, whatever, with somebody else.
Yeah.
And so that was good. It also comes up in dating. When you know what your boundaries are, it's a lot easier to weed out the people that aren't compatible.
The people that don't work, that don't lift you up, that don't need to be there.
That don't expect you to bend over backwards for their every need. Mm-hmm. And you have a reciprocal, healthy relationship. So that's awesome. And I want everyone to experience that, especially if they haven't. Okay, so let's talk about how to set boundaries. How to set boundaries. So first, we talked about how boundaries are individual. So you need to decide where your boundary is.
And how do you know where you need to set one? Usually, unfortunately, it comes with a little ick feeling.
Right. Yeah.
And we're talking about bringing in good feeling things. So identifying more ick. So
being in tune with your body when you get that, like, ooh, that was an icky statement, an icky whatever. I didn't like how that felt. Being in tune with that and taking that lesson. So identifying where your needs your boundaries need to be. But then the next step, which was hard at first but gets easier, is communicating that clearly. So again, going back to everyone can stay for 1 hour. That was probably stressful with the first time you did that.
Super stressful. I'm also thinking about like talking about politics when you have somebody that has completely different views than you. It doesn't mean that you don't have that person in your life unless their moral values are just not worthy.
Right.
But when it's like a family member
Right.
and they have some political views that you don't agree with, setting firm boundaries on, I don't want to talk about politics at the table. So if it comes up again, that's a real hard stop. We give a look and we're like, not with the family. Like you can talk about that later. So that is a boundary we've had to set.
Yeah, so you can have boundaries around your time. You can have boundaries around topics. You can have boundaries around, like for me, a big one is like being late. I'm a late person, but it drives me nuts when other people are late. I know. But I work really hard to not be late.
Sure.
So that's where, but I guess maybe not so much being late, but like communicating about that being late. Like, tell me if you're going to be late. Don't just show up a half hour late and think it's going to be fine.
Yeah.
That comes from a friendship I had in high school where I had a friend. Now I have a little bit more understanding. Like, she had a lot of anxiety, but it would be like, we made plans at 6 and at 8 o'clock she'd be like, I'm on my way. And I'm like, girl, I just wasted my whole night on you. I'm sitting in your driveway for 2 hours. Like, no, this doesn't feel good. This isn't a good relationship.
Yeah.
And so eventually I did have to cut that relationship out because I was like, I can't anymore. But it took a long time because I didn't know that. I didn't have the self-worth then to know that I should have had a better friendship.
That your time was worth more than that. And for her to disrespect you like that, was that okay?
Yeah.
I do that for work. Like, I give people 10 minutes and they need to communicate their time with me.
Yeah.
I'm telling them, I communicate the day before, this is when I'm going to come. Is this okay with you still? And they're like, yep. And so then I'll text, I'm on my way. This is how far out I am. And sometimes they still don't answer the door. And so when they don't answer the door, then I set a hard, okay, next time I'm going to call. And if you don't answer, I'm not driving.
There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah. Another one that I have is like making plans. Like, if we say we're going to get together on Thursday, so I'll put this in the context of dating. Like, if I'm setting up a date with a guy and I'm like, yeah, Thursday works for me. Let me know the time so that I can get a babysitter. And I have to communicate, like, if I'm going to get a babysitter, I need to know like a couple of days in advance. So just, let me know what the plan is. If they want help setting a plan, but I'm not doing the plan. That's a boundary that I'm doing.
Sure.
I'm not starting off the relationship doing the heavy lifting.
Yeah.
Like, that is a precedent we set. So I, will give suggestions, but like, you as the person taking me on a date need to set up the plan and communicate that plan to me so that I have time to get a babysitter. But I have to communicate that. I did my part. I told you this is what I need. And if you don't do it, then we don't go on the date.
Yeah. Well, and then if they don't do it, then you don't want to go on a date with them.
Anyway,
that's really kind of a good filter system you got going on there.
It is, because then
Screen
I'm like,
out those bad boys.
I'm not a last minute person.
Yeah.
Like, I am, like, as we get to know each other more, but like, no, if you can't even set up a first date, then put like effort into that and communicate to me when I have a child and I've said that, like,
no, I think that's great.
You're not worth my time, but that's a boundary.
I love it. That's a great boundary. That's a great example of a boundary.
I'm like, I'm not doing this whole like, oh, let me see if I can find a last minute. No.
Yeah.
Respect my time, respect my energy, respect my situation.
Yeah, I love it.
And that's great.
Yeah.
So setting boundaries. So you're setting your limits. You have to be consistent.
Yeah.
We know this with kids. We know this with friends.
Yeah.
Be consistent, and it just, so everyone knows what's happening.
What it is. Yeah.
What's happening.
That's exactly it.
Listen to your gut. I think that's a really big one when you're setting boundaries.
Tapping into that
and
intuition.
Also, I think boundaries, for me, when I see that, it's like, listen to your gut and your intuition. That might say a boundary needs to change. Your boundaries don't have to be set in stone. You can renegotiate them whenever.
You change. You grow, you change. Your friends grow and change. So as that happens, you might have new situations come up that you're like, ding, 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 this isn't resonating. We got to fix this.
And you can let boundaries go too and say like, oh, in this season of life, like, I really needed to be this, to have it be this certain way, or I really needed you to leave by 8, but that time is now 9 o'clock, so you can leave at 8:30 or whatever. But the key is then circling back to those first ones of communicating that new boundary.
Yeah.
So that people aren't operating off of an old set of agreements to that. Yeah. And then Be open to feedback.
Yeah.
Some boundaries are going to be a negotiation. Like
Yeah.
you can say, I need this, or state your need and say, this is the boundary I'm thinking of, or this is what I need in a friendship. And a good friendship is going to be like, I can support you in this way, but maybe they can't support you in all the way. Or maybe you need to, I feel like that really goes with romantic relationships or a partnership. Like I'm being in marriage.
Yeah.
Some people are like, I want to have friends over to our house every weekend, and other people are like, I can do maybe twice a week.
Yeah.
Getting to that
and we do that. We've done that a lot lately, actually, because my family is new to town. My uncle and his husband moved here, and so instead of just having one family to visit with all the time, we have two families to visit with all the time. So my husband and I have done a lot of talking about, okay, you're overwhelmed with work and the kids this week. Like, how do you feel about having family over? So we've definitely like had a lot of give and take on, I really want to do something. So then if you don't want to do it, then I'll take the kids and go maybe. He never wants to miss out, which I love that too. But there's been a lot of conversations about that and setting those boundaries and making sure that everyone's needs are met and no one is feeling overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Which is important.
That is important. And that's really what boundaries are meant to do.
Yeah.
Keep you from feeling overwhelmed.
Yeah.
So again, as always, we've got a podcast pal about this. Feel free to download it or reach out to us. We love feedback. We love questions. We want to do a Q&A question episode at some point. So give us those and maybe we'll riff on it next time.
Yeah. And then let us know who needs a shout out.
Yeah. We want to do a new shout out segment too. So, we want to give love to our Vibe Tribers, and, we love encouraging and empowering other women. That's part of why we're doing this. So if you know someone who's doing something awesome, leveling up, just being the best that she can be, we want to give her some love. And so send her to us and maybe we'll shout her out. So,
love it.
All right.
That's a wrap. Thanks.
Thank you for tuning into the Vibrant Life podcast. We hope today's episode has energized and inspired you to live your best life. If you enjoyed what you heard, be sure to subscribe to our podcast on your favorite platform so as to never miss an episode. And please take a moment to leave us a review. Your feedback fuels our mission to bring you more valuable content. Remember, your journey to Vibrant Life is ongoing. Stay connected with us on social media at Vibrant Life Society for daily tips, motivation, and community support. As we wrap up today's conversation, we encourage you to embrace each moment, pursue your passions, and prioritize your well-being. Together, let's create a life that radiates with energy and purpose. Until next time, live vibrantly. See you in our next episode.